Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning back into another episode of Billions. It is the peek behind the curtain of $1 billion brokerage. And I am one of your hosts, Jeff Beggins, and I'm here with my brother,
Craig Beggins. How are you?
and our adopted brother,
Mike Puma.
Mr. Mike Puma, over there.
Brother from another mother.
Brother from another. All right. So welcome to our dysfunctional family. Once again, we've got some. So look, the purpose of this one is growth, man, right? And we've been doing this 31 years now, Craig, the brokerage, and last couple of years over billions in sales, and we've done many billions in sales over the years and 60,000 transactions. We've been through a lot, and so what we want to do is our mantra is empower, educate, and encourage. So this is for those of you growing your agent, growing your business, growing your team, thinking about starting a brokerage, all the stuff we're going through, and what's going to help you kind of fast forward your track and while we're growing ours, right? So there's kind of the background of what we're doing from a company standpoint here. But today we've got a couple of really cool topics that I think that you're going to get a lot of value from on this one. And here's something the agents don't like hearing, right? This is what kind of market, Greg?
An activity-based market.
Activity-based market, which is very different than the market we've had over the last couple of years, which has been a reactivity-based market where you just had a lot of activity and you were just on the receiving end. And now there's a ton of people across the country, across the world, actually. We just got back from the global conference, C21. A lot of people are going, what happened? Where was that business? And some people are down, some people are up. Right. And I think the main difference is how are you running your businesses? So one of the things we want to go back and forth on is the differences between an active and a passive business. Active marketing, passive marketing, and both have their place, but it depends. So let's talk about active versus passive.
Well, let's hit this first. So I think you have to recognize the forecasters are saying, we did 6 million home sales for the last couple of years, a year. Now we're going to do 4 million home sales plus a little bit this year. So you're looking at a 30% decline, 33% decline in sales. Nobody's going to have a normal business because you're at 30% fewer home sales unless you become active, right? And make things happen. So a lot of people are going to sit back and react and they're going to do 40 or 50% less. And some people are going to take charge and do 30 or 40% more. But we're dealing with a finite pool of home sales unless we do something different, which is what we're posturing to do.
Good point. And it's all about headlines too. Let's put that into context for a second. I was shooting a little content earlier with Taylor. We were talking about this thing. Like right now, I'm over at the beach markets over here and outside of the Tampa Bay Central Florida market. The beaches are freaking packed. The streets are busy, the restaurants are full, the hotels are full because it's spring break, right? Full. For the next month and a half, 2 months is going to be crazy full. So 100% occupancies, everything's out of control. Now, if I were to make the same observation on Wednesday, November 4th, when schools are back in session and everybody's working and it's cold outside, I'm going to say, oh my gosh, the beach is down 93% in activity, right? Why? Because it's a totally different time. It's a totally different marketplace, a totally different set of input, right? So the headlines are going around, oh my God, the real estate market's off 33%. But that's not a fair calculation because we just came off a couple of years of a wild ass market where people were buying for free money almost, right? 2.5% dollars. I mean, why not buy? If you didn't buy during that period of time, that was silly and you missed an opportunity. But that market frenzy has subsided and we're back to a normal market, which is about the same type of market we had before the old craziness started in there. So it's about your interpretation of the headline reading too. So just because the market has dropped in activity doesn't mean that the industry is down. It just, we rode that little wave and now we're back down to an activity-based market with regular person real estate with people that are buying and selling homes.
Well, and to be clear, there's never been a headline written in the history of the world that was not done so from a particular point of view or narrative. Not one, right? A headline has one job and one job only, no matter what angle you're looking to take. It has one job, and that is to get attention. That's it. All right. So, and next time you read a headline, you've got to dig a little deeper and say, well, what was the goal of this headline? The goal of that headline was to get you to click on it and open up the article. Now, do they even really care what's in the article? No, they do not. What you will find as you read that article are ads. And the more ads that they can say that there are more eyes that they can say are on those ads, the more they can charge for it. That's it. End of story. I'm a marketer. We ruin everything. We've ruined news. We've ruined headline. We ruin everything. And the second we find something new that has attention, we're going to go and we're going to rip every ounce of attention out of that thing until you hate it. And then we'll move on to the next thing. This is literally what we've done since the history of the world, and it'll be continue to be the case. So stop headline reading, number one, and then also make sure that you're out there really paying attention to what's going on and not letting that dictate your actions.
Dictate your actions is the key part of that sentence too, because if this is the time to take action. I was talking to one of the agents, and I said, let's grab your phone. I said that phone is a reflection of you right now. Namely, there's an app in your phone that's a reflection of you. And namely, in this case, so where do you bank? And it was Bank of America. So open up a Bank of America app. That is the reflection of you 60 days ago, right? The activity that you took 60 days ago is reflected in the number of those deposits that are in that bank account right now. And that's the truth. And this is an activity-based market. If we don't take more activity now, 60 months from now is going to be an ugly scenario also for some, or it's going to be awesome for others. And it's going to depend on the activity that you do.
Well, look at the mastermind group we started 7 weeks ago.
Yep.
In end of this year. And we actually started, for the last part of Q4 as well.
That's right.
But for the first time, this aha moment for me was most of our agents did their 25 contacts or connections versus what they did 6 weeks, 5 weeks, 4 weeks. It took 7 weeks to get them to the point where they actually did it. And that was shaming and beating and calling names and all the stuff. Right. And it took 7 weeks to get to the point of making 25 connections in a 5-day period, which is only 5 connections a day. Right.
Yeah.
Think about this. So if you're a real estate agent, you're not making 5 connections a day. What the hell are you doing?
The problem is most of us are used or more comfortable, I should say, with taking passive action than we are taking, actual action. Right. And there's a difference. There's a big difference, no matter what you're doing. Right. I could go door to door, leave a flyer on the flag of the mailbox and keep driving.
So don't do that.
Right. Or I could go and walk up to the door and knock on it and wait for someone to answer.
Yep.
Right. Which one's passive? First one. Right. Social. I could make a post, hope someone sees it, wait for them to message me about it. Right. Or I could take something. I'll give you a perfect example. If I have a friend, which I do, that's a Bears fan, and I see an article or a trade or something interesting that happens with the Chicago Bears, I could share that article into my feed and hope that he sees it and hope that he reaches out to me about it. Or I could go using the same social platform, click on him, message him with a link to the article and be like, hey, dude, saw this article. What are your thoughts? And start a conversation. There's nothing to do with real estate, but I'm being active and starting that conversation one-on-one. Or I could share it and just hope to God he sees it, and then maybe that sparks a conversation, right? There's everything is out there, but there's passive ways to do it, and then there's actually active ways to go do it.
To that point, let's say you're posting reels, you're posting your stories, right? And you can see who sees your stories and your reels, right? You 100% can see it. Whether they respond or react or not, that their eyeballs were on your content, right? So passively, it's like, oh, cool, I got 537 eyeballs on my stuff in the last 24 hours. Good for you, right? That's passive. And 14 of them loved it, and 18 of them give you a heart, whatever it is. That's passive, right? The active part would be finding the people that really engage and saying, you know, click, let's send you a DM. Mike, I really appreciate your support on all the content that I'm doing. What's going on with you? Right? Like taking that communication to another level and starting a conversation. Right? That's active, right? Versus just passive. Just one extra step on that too. Another good example, let me give you. I was talking to one of the agents over here at the Madeira office, and she was pumped because she picked a farm and she knows she could picture where her signs are going to go up. It's a really beautiful community and she's pumped. Right. And I said, awesome. What are you doing? She said, I've really got a lot of stuff going on. I'm sending out letters to them. I'm like, cool. Are you handwriting the letters? Right. And she's no. And what are you doing with the letters? Well, I hired RSP. I said, okay, so you're sending postcards out. That's different than sending a letter. That's even more passive, right? It's not as active because you're not really doing shit except putting your credit card into a company, right? So that's pretty passive, but at least it's better than doing nothing. Better than doing that would be to handwrite with hand address with a real stamp with your return address and a nice contextual note about their property. And then I said, well, who are you sending it to? Well, everybody. So, well, that's okay. Let's talk about that a little bit more. Who else what could you do? So let's get into the market. And do you have a tool that you can go in and find out who is the most likely to sell in that neighborhood? She goes, well, that's what the postcards are going to do. When they scan my QR code, it's going to give me a message. I can go hit them up. I said, okay, that's one way to do it. And you're right. That's a reaction. Number two, you could pop right into Remind right now. And you can click on the high sell scores and you can hand deliver something to them. Now, what would you hand deliver? Hi, if you ever think about selling, call me. That's a semi-active way. Or what else can you do? What do we have like Jessica's doing right now?
Free equity evaluation.
CMAs are huge.
Equity evaluation. Now imagine there's 400 homes in the farm that she's targeting. They're all $1 million homes. They're beautiful properties. If she took the 32 high sell scores and popped those down and made it a point to do 5 or 6 CMAs or equity evaluations and actually went to their front door and said, hi, I just had something for you. I'm doing this for some of the neighbors in town. I'd like to see if you'd like to just to provide you with the market equity evaluation. What's going on in your home? I don't know if you have any interest in selling or not, but just a service I like to provide to the neighborhood. How long you guys lived here? Where'd you move from? How'd you have kids here? Where'd you move? Right? All that stuff. That's active. Okay. That is how you have a conversation. Now, strategic who you go to, strategic what you do with them. But guys, this is your business, right? This is the business. Now, our job is to keep those ideas going. Our job are to empower, educate, and encourage, and sometimes to kick the butt of those who have to reach their clarity issues. But too much passiveness going on right now.
Well, I think too, it's all comes down to strategy. And I want to preface this by something's better than nothing, right? But I'll just use this example. If I go to the gym and I walk in the gym and I don't use any of the equipment, the fact that I showed up is better than not showing up, but it also doesn't really get me any results, right? I could go to the gym, I could hop on a few machines, but if I don't really know what I'm doing, I'm better than not doing anything, but I'm probably still not going to get the results I want. Yep. But if I go to the gym, I get on the machines and I take the time to actually learn how to lift properly. Now I'm putting myself in the best position to succeed. And it's the same thing with everything we do. Just like the CMA example, right? So many times I see people reach out and they're like, hey, I want to give you a CMA. And they even produce the CMAs and they send them out. That's better than doing nothing. But I hate to break it to you. Anyone who's got a pulse, who's owned a home over the last few years, knows that they have equity in their home. Now, do they know how much? Maybe, maybe not. But most people have a general idea based on their neighbor, friend selling. All right, I bought the house for 200. It's probably worth, I got a couple $100,000 in equity. They know that. They don't need you to tell them that, right? What they do need you to tell them that or about is, what can I do with that equity? Because that they may not understand. So if I'm going to do a CMA for Jeff, I'm not just going to send Jeff a CMA and say, hey, Jeff, your house is worth about $1 million more than it was last year. Congrats. Great. Jeff probably knows that. But if I say, hey, Jeff, I noticed you got a ton of equity in this house, man, upwards of $1 million. have you ever even looked or potentially looked at any options that you have with that $1 million? Are you leveraging it? Would you like to leverage it? Let me give you some examples of some stuff that some of our other clients have done. And now I give him some real life examples of how to use that equity, things that he may not have known, may not have thought about because he's not in the industry. Now I'm getting somewhere that actually provides value. And if I'm going to take the time to take action, let's take action with strategy a part of it, right? Let's not just take action for the sake of taking action, because if you actually want results, it takes the mixture of both.
And it's adding sales skills in too, right? Third-party stories. That's how one of the best things to sell, because you're not selling, you're telling at that point in time. So I can say, hey, Craig, and this is a true story. I talked to one of our agents last night, and he's working on a client that might be buying one of the John's Pass retreat homes, right? It's a $4 million vacation rental, right? That's a serious thing, right? And it's going to require about $1 million down, right? Just to even purchase the piece of property. And he was talking to his client who was sitting on some other really nice properties about pulling out equity in some of those other properties, pull $1 million out, pop it down on this piece of property, and watch this one return $500,000 a year, right? So what's the return on $100,000 down to get $400,000 or $500,000 or $1 million down to get $400,000, $500,000 a year? Pretty good for those mathematicians in the room, right? But this is a third-party story that Mike can now use and say, hey, one of my colleagues was just talking to his client who was able to leverage a few other properties and pull out $1 million in equity to buy a piece of property that's going to cash flow $400,000 or $500,000 a year, right? Now you're watching, you could tell the exact same third-party story, which allows credibility to the situation, even if you didn't do that story yourself, right? It's leverage, just leveraging the power of stories on there. Right.
You just had me think about the game Monopoly. Right?
Yeah.
The whole game of Monopoly. You buy the little greenhouses and you trade them in for hotels and everything grows accordingly.
Yeah.
Right. That's all we're talking about. And you've been given a gift. I'm sorry, I'm not that smart, but my house is worth a ton of money. But I had nothing to do with it. Right. But what am I going to do? Set on $1 million in equity? That is kind of dumb.
It's
right.
Well,
yeah, but talk about this, because one of the biggest things here is, how do you even start to engage in this conversation about equity with your clients, right? This is a big thing, because you might be breaking generational rules inside of their world, right? And as soon as you do that, we're going to sales skills, right? We bring sales back into the real estate industry. And let's understand this. That's from a taping perspective. When Mary and Bobby, your clients, were brought up and they were little Mary and little Bobby, little Mary and little Bobby were taught life. Who were the Mary and Bobby taught life from?
Their parents.
Parents, their uncles, their grandparents. You weren't there. You don't know the lessons that were taught around the Thanksgiving table. With a penny saved is a penny earned. You pay off your house and that's what you do, right? And maybe that's what Grandpa Steve said, and everybody loves Grandpa Steve because Grandpa Steve had a whatever, and he was the guru of the family. He was the patriarch. That's just it. And everybody just honored everything that he said, right? And they've been doing that for 40 years. Grandpa Steve was the guru in their head. You pop over and say, hey, your house is free and clear, dumbass. Let's pull that money out and let's put it on the roulette wheels over here and then over here. Right? You just destroyed every bit of credibility for yourself, because you just shredded what Grandpa Steve taught them over the years, right? You guys get the point? So we have to find a way to creatively ease these ideas into the story so you don't potentially really polarize yourself and just blow all credibility and rapport.
Well, one way to do that, though, is I believe that the biggest indicator of future behavior is past behavior, right?
Yeah.
So one way to kind of use that, not against someone, but to get them to see your point, is if someone were to come to me and say, hey, Mike, I see you got 300 or 400 grand in equity. And really all you did was buy a house at the right time. You made that decision. You put yourself in a good position. Now all you've done is slept and that house has grown. It's created 300,000 or 400,000 access to you. Yeah, you're right. You should never do that again. Don't do that. That's silly. All you did was sleep. right? But the reality is, if you actually look at my past behavior, what did I do? Well, I took the risk, right? So we always say we didn't do anything for it. Yes, we did. We made a really smart decision. We fought every urge and every risk of buying a house and everything that comes with that, all the emotions. We fought that, and we made the choice to buy something. And by that choice, it's grown, right? Over time, it's grown. I wouldn't be in this position if it didn't grow. So it grew. So why, if we did it before, why would we not do that again? If all I had to do was buy that house and sleep in it and let it grow, and I earned 3, 4, 500,000, $1 million in equity, why in the world would you not want to do that again? Right? But it's getting them to understand that they've already done it. We're not asking them to do something new here. They've already done this. This is exactly what they did 7, 8, 10, however long ago it was that they bought their house. For me, it was about 8 years. 8 years ago, I did this exact thing. I made the decision to buy a house. Why did I make that decision? And now we can start getting into the root of where their psychology is of why'd you buy the house to begin with? Right? And then what did that provide? It provided security, it provided this. Well, great. Now it's provided you with all of those things, and it's appreciated in value, which is exactly what's going to happen with this next property that you buy. So let's do it again.
That all super valid points on this one. Now, for those watching, these are great points, right? Now, but we're going deeper here because, and I'll use an example. So 8 years ago, Mike and Courtney bought a home. Okay. There were certain reasons their life was a certain position 8 years ago. And there were thoughts and feelings and actions that were going on 8 years ago that caused the idea to buy a home, overcome the objections to buy a home, and actually buying a home. Correct. And Craig, probably know where I'm going with this one. You got the attraction strategy and you have a buying strategy. Now, guys, this is sales skills. So those of you looking to grow a team, grow a brokerage, or grow your business, if you don't up your sales skills game, you're going to be exactly where you are right now. It's impossible to get any further than you are with the skill level you have right now, right? We keep learning because we want to keep going. We're number 20th best Century 21 in the world. We got to get better, right? How do we get better? We got to learn new stuff. We got to do new things. We got to take more risks. We got to screw more stuff up, right? We got to learn from the screw ups and get better for the next ones. That's what we have to do, which is what you have to do. So there's attraction strategies. There's something, if you want to get into it, you say, Mike and Courtney, what's going on? You guys, was this the only house that was for sale in the market? Or did you guys look at other homes in the market? Do you remember? Go back to 8 years ago. What was the market then?
We looked at a few other homes. We actually found this one very fast because we had kind of a list of things we were looking for, and this literally checked just about every box at the time. So that was it.
Well, I think we need to call out though, when you're buying a home to live in, it's a whole different experience than buying a home as an investment. Right?
It is.
And I think what's important to recognize if you get into the mathematics of it, I got a little 401k, I get a report every Friday, and the damn thing's gone down every week. It's not a whole lot of money, but it goes down, it goes down, it goes down, it goes down. And it really pisses me off to think I've got that much money sitting there and it's going down. Right. But that's it. I got 100% of my money is in that thing, and that's all my money. Right. But when I'm buying a house, a rental property, I'm only putting 25 or 30% down. So a $400,000 house, I put $100,000 down, but I get the growth on a $400,000 investment. When you look at the math on that, if it goes up 25 grand, it's 25 grand on the 100 grand I put down, but it's 25 grand on the $400,000. So you got to get that part wrapped around your head. It's leveraging, right?
Well, I think it's easier though, to your point. I think it's easier to buy the investment property because it's not emotional. Buying this house was emotional, right? Selling our last house was emotional. That was the home we brought our 2 kids home to, right? That was the first house we had bought together, right, with my wife. So that there was a lot of emotion tied to that property. And honestly, we would have held on to it, but that neighborhood was about to face litigation, and I didn't want any part of that, so we sold it. But buying this house was emotional, right? Because now we're transplanting our kids. We're transplanting our life. We're buying it because of the schools and because of all this other stuff. And so that's a big decision. There's emotions. Me buying another house, that's just all I care then is math. Does the math work? If the math works, that's it. There's no emotion. I don't care if the house is blue, pink, purple, gray. I don't care if it's in Ohio. I don't care if it's here. I don't care if it's in Georgia. It does not matter. Is it a good deal? Does the math work? Do I believe it will appreciate over time? Historically, I've never seen a house that doesn't. So yes, I'm in, right? It's an easier decision, in my opinion.
It's a different decision. That's the only one I wanted to make.
Well,
It's a different decision.
let me go back to this one, because those of you who want to become salespeople, right? Or I should say, people with sales skills, go back to what Mike said several minutes ago, right? And this is what separates the herd, guys, what I'm talking about right now. Mike Puma's attraction strategy when he bought that first house 8 years ago was, these are word for word what he said. It's recorded, go back, rewind it, right? We just looked around. It happened really fast. We had a whole list of things that we went down through. We were able to check those boxes, and that was it. Quotes. Okay. So I now know that at that point in time. So when I want to relate back to him on something, is he visual, auditory, or kinesthetic? What is he? He said he looked around. They looked around. He's visual. So I have to go switch and go into neutral. If I want some business, this is right. If I don't really care if I piss him off or alienate him or not, then do whatever the hell you want. But if you actually want to convert more, right, easily and have better repeat and referral business, pay some respect to the damn person you're dealing with, right? He happens to be in a visual mode, right, when he's attracted to something. So I'm going to say, hey, let me tell you all about the Meadow Point subdivision, right? If I tell you this, and then I'm going to tell you a couple stories, and we're going to get a feel for the neighborhood, and you guys are just going to love the family atmosphere. It's going to be awesome. Lost him because I was just talking from an auditory perspective and a kinesthetic perspective. He likes to look around, like, hey, Mike, Courtney, let's go look around. I'm going to show you a couple things. Wait till you see it. It's so cool. You're not going to believe your eyes, right? These are the things that you do when you know who you're dealing with, okay? And you don't know who you're dealing with till you ask questions. You don't know what you're dealing with till you ask questions, and you write down the answers. Every time. You guys have seen my desk. I got papers all over the place, and every meeting I have to, you're going to see something like this, VAK. I take notes because I respect the person I'm dealing with, and he's visual. So first thing, with Mike Puma in my CRM file, V. So I know that he's a visual person. I forget because the person I'm talking to next might be kinesthetic, right? If you don't know what I'm talking about, you better up your game at this thing, but you got to realize what they're doing. And then he's a guy, he likes to move quickly, right? So I might bring that into the equation. Then we might have a checklist and this thing to check his list. What might I do as a salesperson? Hey, Mike, let's look around. I want to see something. Let's put together you and I. Let's get a checklist going of the things that are important to you guys, so we can just check off the boxes. And then once we know, then that's it. Then we know we got the right house. See what I'm saying, guys? See what I'm saying?
See what I'm saying?
Sales skills. It's about we're in the people and communications business, guys. That's all we're in. People and communications. And that's it. It's a lost art form. And that's what it's going to take to grow your business, grow your team, or grow your brokerage, is infusing and interjecting these skills for one reason only. So your customers trust you faster, because you can't do business without trust. And that's a little digression there, but I think it's pretty important to get into this one, because we have to find a way to start this conversation and not piss them off and not break their rules, because you break the rules, you're done. You broke the trust and you're never getting it back. They're going to ghost on you. They're out of here. They're going to work with somebody else. So what our wish is for you is to be that neutral, and then see who you're dealing with, listen to who you're dealing with, get a feel for who you're around, and then switch into whichever gear is appropriate at that time. And it might be the guy's different than the girl, the spouse is different than the other spouse. You just got to pay attention if you want to have really good growth on that one.
Well, I think I want to get back to the core message we're starting here.
Yeah.
6 million home sales, 4 million home sales. What can we do about that? Nothing. Those are the headlines to Mike's point, right? Home sales are going to be down 30%. What could we do to affect a change? We could create a new market, right? By exposing people to use their equity to acquire a new home, which they don't need, but it's a great time to do it, right? You don't have to kick a couple tires to make sure, but factor in a property manager to manage it and take a look. Not every house is going to cash flow the way you want it to, but you just make offers and you do things and you get in the game, right? Personally, I would not buy a house that does not have enough money to pay a property manager. I'm just too damn nice, right? I need a property manager to be a tough ass to say, hey, you didn't pay the rent, get out. Or here's my lawyer. There are some downsides to this, right? But for the most
property management's key. You got to leave money for potential repairs or when they move out, right? You got to do that. If you're not, you could find yourself in a really bad spot. So that should be factored in all the time. Payment, interest, those things have to be factored in, obviously. Insurance has to be factored in. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot to it, right? And you won't always get it right. But to your point, I mean, and it's important that you let your clients know that too. I mean, I look at probably 5 to 10 homes before I find one that I actually like, right? That's about what I've seen. Every 5 to 10 that I get sent, there's usually one in there that really makes sense and is better than the rest. So you just got to take your time and make sure your clients understand the risk, because there is risk, and never promise them a return. That's not what we're licensed to do.
That's right.
So we don't sell securities. That's for the mortgage guys and the finance guys to figure out with them. But all we can do is find properties that fit their needs, what they're looking for, to Jeff's point, and then it's up to them to actually do the real math to figure out, make sure it's going to cash flow the way they want.
So let's take a group of real estate agents. We got 600 agents now. What if we got 100 of those people to get their customers to buy an investment property? That would be 600 additional sales that we could make.
Plus, they're going to tell their friends that they did it, so there's probably a peripheral few hundred more.
Exactly.
Yep.
So what are we going to say? Oh, woe is me. The market's down. We're going to have a 30% fewer sales. No, let's find them. They're out there. Build a market.
And don't just go buy something for the sake of buying something. There's so many people bought a house and said, I'm going to Airbnb it, but it's not next to anything attractive. And there's not a huge demand of people coming there. You're going to lose your butt on impulse decisions like that. No, don't do it. Get an advisor who can really, really help you realize where the demand in the area is and where's the niche.
It's not hard. I mean, I'm not going to, I'll say it. Go to Zillow. You'll see what's out there. What's for rent? What's for sale? It's not that hard. People are paying a lot of money to rent.
Yeah, but I'm talking short terms. A lot of VRBO type people think that just because you have a house, it's 15 minutes from the beach, it's going to rent out, right? It's going to kill a lot of people.
Oh, yeah. And your HOAs are going against VRBOs now. They're trying to set up rules. You got to own the house for a year before you can short-term rent it. There's all kinds of stuff out there you got to know.
And it's code by code, city by city, neighborhood by neighborhood. The rules are too. So if I had, this is not one of our agents, but an agent called me and said, I really screwed up. I said, what did you do? And he sold his guy a $2 million beautiful waterfront house. Beautiful, beautiful, like 2-minute walk to the beach. And the guy thought he could short-term rent it. And he can, but there's a definition of short-term rentals that it's a 3-month minimum, right? That's still short-term, depending on some people's definitions, but it's certainly not a weekly, daily scenario with the ones where you actually make some money. So he thought he bought a short-term rental on the next to the beach for $2 million, and he started advertising and got fined and got shut down. And his agent is in a bunch of trouble, right, for that. And because he should have advised him. So be very careful and understand the micro markets that you're dealing in, and make sure whichever micro market you're dealing in that right? You need to know everything about that micro market if you're intending to go all in on it.
Or find somebody who does, guys. Do not be afraid to refer a deal out. Do not be afraid to rely on someone, even if it's in your own market. If I were to go and try and do a sale that I've never done, if I'm trying to do short-term waterfront in Apollo Beach, I'm not trying to do that by myself. I'm going to call Craig, because Craig knows that waterfront area better than anyone, and he's going to know if that neighborhood and seawalls, what's the situation there, and that neighborhood's in litigation, and don't do it there, don't do it here. He's going to know. I'm 20, 30 miles away. I still don't know. I'm close, but I don't know. In the same way that if he had a client that wanted to be up here in Wesley Chapel, which he did the other day, he called me. Hey, I got somebody who wants to be in Wesley. I'll help them. I know this market like the back of my hand, right? So understand where you're at and don't put yourself in a bad position because you're trying to make a couple extra grand. Refer the deal out, right? I'm buying a lot of stuff in Ohio. I can look on Zillow in Ohio. I can see deals. Do I have any idea the neighborhoods in Ohio? Do I know anything that's going on there? Do I know what possibly it could rent for in that particular neighborhood, or what that street looks like? And what you can easily make a mistake is I could look at a house on Zillow. That house looks great. What I don't know is that the two neighbors to the left have let their yards grow and it's disgusting and no one wants to live there. I don't know. But you know who does know? The local agent I have that I'm paying percentage of my deals to go find them and actually advise me on local what's going on. So don't be afraid to refer out when you do not have the answer.
100% true. I hate it when I just come and say, hey, I got a deal in Miami. Well, sorry, refer it.
With a couple of exceptions, right? I'll give the Matt Gouster example, right?
Yeah.
So Matt's an agent whose father has a friend that's looking to buy a house up, and it's a market 4 hours north of us on the Panhandle in the Gulf of Mexico, right? And the right answer was, dude, refer that thing, take a nice fat multi-million-dollar referral check, a referral fee from a multi-million-dollar deal. Life is good. And he said, then we said, he goes, I really want it. He was newer at the time, and that was a life-changing commission, right? On a $3 million house. It's big, it's 100 grand, right? So it was worth it. And I said, is it? Because if it's really worth it, you need to get your ass up there and go live there, rent a place for a week, go learn the marketplace, study everything, go into every real estate office, go into every open house, learn the markets, go into muni codes, learn the densities, go talk to the city manager's office and figure out what's going on in that town, right? And make sure he's definitely buying, from you, and that he's buying right now. And if the answer to those three things, yes, maybe it's worth you taking a week trip to really become educated and know that market and figure it out. And that's what he did. And that's the
price range. But sometimes
Depending on the price range.
100% referral fee is better time spent.
correct. If that was a 380 house, not worth the time. $3 million house, worth the time. So it's a business, guys. It's a business. You just got to think about what is worth it. Now, if that was a guy who, especially the investor market's the worst, because we always tell the agents, right? There's three questions when you're working with a buyer. Do they have to buy a house? Right? Do they know where they want to buy? And is there a time frame in which they have to buy it? And if the answer to those three things is yes, work with them. And if the answer is not yes to those three things, be really careful. Investors, do they have to buy a house? Nope. They want to deploy capital. Mike, you don't have to buy anything. Yeah, well, when things are right, do you know where you need to buy it? Nope. I'll buy it wherever my money works for me. Do you have a time frame? Nope. Whenever it's right, it's right. Very big problem, right?
Yeah.
Very big problem, because you don't have to do anything. You'll only do it when it's right. So you would be a tough client for me to try to explain to my spouse that I work today, because I don't know you're ever going to buy anything. You might, and it might be great when you do, but I just can't commit to that right now.
Right.
So back to active versus passive. But I hope you guys are getting the points, right? There's so much to do in this business. There's too many things to do in this business. This market is going to be very bad for some, and it's going to be phenomenal for others. And guys, we just got back from a global conference, right? It was amazing. The wall, there's a 100% wall that's out there, and people are on one side or the other side. One side of the wall is, well, how's your market? Well, I think it's going to suck, man. Fed's going to keep raising rates. Fed keeps raising the rates. Mortgage rates keep going up. Home sales go down. We're hunkering down. We're just cutting off staff and we're waiting for it. You heard those people, right, Greg? There's a bunch of people like that. And they read a headline and they said, oh, okay, I guess it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad. Right? Then there's that wall on the other side, and there's a town on the other side of this wall. And there's some other people living in there. This happens to be the village we live in. And it is, hell yeah, the feds are raising rates. They better, right? They got to get inflation a little bit under control so the economy keeps growing. It's all good. or there's still marriages, there's still babies, there's still divorces, there's job transfers, there's people transferring properties left and right. There's plenty of homes, there's plenty of deals. We're just gonna become an activity-based market and get to work and talk to people, and we'll make more money than we did last year, right? Different village. So you watching, you get to decide which village you're gonna live in. And if you're a team leader, you better figure out which village your team's gonna be living in. And if you're a broker, you better be the mayor of the village that you want to be in, because you're not going to have a very inspired group that's living in the, oh shit, the Fed's raising Ratesville. You got to get the people that say, let's go create a new marketplace.
So I think that's it. Take the power in your own hands and decide what you want, right?
Right. Yep.
And it doesn't work. Everybody else is going to be sitting there saying, oh, woe is me. The market's going to suck. We're going to have 30% fewer deals this year. Or we're going to say, you know what? Why don't we just go find new deals? Because this is now a good time. What's happening in the real world right now? There's no friggin' inventory, guys. I mean, we would carry 700-800 units on active listings, and now we're down to under 200. And we keep getting new listings and we keep selling them before they even get to the market.
Yep.
Right? We have a major inventory shortage. So what do we need? More inventory.
That's right. That's right.
That's it.
So hopefully we brought you some value, guys. These are really important topics in today's market right now. That's going to help you as an agent, team leader, broker, just kind of keep on growing. So I'm going to thank you guys for your attention. Hopefully we bring some value. Like this, comment it, subscribe to the channel, help us grow what we're doing, just kind of keep growing the whole world. Rising tide raises all boats. We're not getting anything from this except educating you guys and just kind of expanding the footprint. So thanks for watching. Talk to you guys soon.
Yes.